This is Katrin with Disability Rights New York. Welcome to our podcast, Empire State of Rights, closed captioned. We are here to bring you information on the most relevant topics regarding disability rights and advocacy. Today we have Donna-Jean Steele and Zach Borodkin, staff advocates here at DRNY. They're here to discuss their experience pulse site surveying during New York State's 2019 general elections. Donna-Jean, Zach, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, guys.
So here at DRNY, every election we have in New York State, we go out and do poll site surveying. We visit the poll sites and we check to make sure that they are accessible. Donna-Jean, will you start by telling us what area you surveyed and what accessibility issues you found?
Sure, no problem. So I was able to survey 13 different counties throughout New York State. I started in Onondaga County in Syracuse. I then made my way through the Adirondack Mountains up to Clinton County up in Plattsburgh. And then I traveled the North Country some, made my way through Franklin County, and then back down to Oswego. That week, I was able to survey a lot more counties than we normally would have been just on Election Day.
And so can you talk to us? This is the first year that New York State has had early election. How did that impact poll site surveying for you?
It greatly impacted our ability to survey more counties that we've never been to. Normally, we survey counties that are within maybe an hour or two drive of our offices, which are in Rochester, New York, Albany, New York, and Brooklyn. So it kind of limits us geographically where we're able to survey. So having that extra 9 days, or at least the work week, which is 5 days, we're able to survey 10 times more locations. And I think Zach can speak to that as well. The main accessibility issue that I saw kind of relates to the early voting. Early voting is great, and I'm thankful that New York State has passed that law and we're able to all get out and vote. The issue that we have is that the ballot marking devices, or the BMDs, were not arranged in an accessible way, at least the poll sites that I saw. This was due to a lack of space. So normally on Election Day, each poll site has a ballot marking device at the location that anybody can use. And that ballot marking device has that ballot for that specific location, that village, that town, for whatever election is running at that moment. Because early voting, there may be as few as one early voting location throughout a whole county. So that means those ballot marking devices have to have far more ballots stored within them. So that's where the locations were running into a storage problem, storage of data within the BMDs. And that meant that they had to maybe have 3 or up to 5 ballot marking devices in their gym or in their office space where their early location was at. So it just made a way that it was not accessible because all the ballot marking devices were pushed up against the wall. It was just a space issue that we'd never run into before, as we've never done early voting. So I think that was the main issue that I came across.
So, Donna-Jean, I just want to follow up with this, the issue of ballot storage. Was that in any way an anticipated accessibility issue before you went in? And is there a way that they can plan for that in the future?
I talked with the poll site workers at a few different locations, and I'm not sure anybody could have anticipated it just because normally on Election Day there's however many more ballot marking devices compared to maybe one location at early voting. So I think for the future, it would have to be possibly an update in storage or a different ballot marking device that might have more storage capability, something along those lines that we could limit how many ballot marking devices need to be in one certain location. That way there isn't such a clog up in space. So hopefully we'll be able to tackle that for next election.
That's really good information. And so, Zach, we had another first here in some counties in New York State. The new ICE Dominion ballot marking device was used in the counties that you were surveying. Can you talk to us about what the overall response was with those BMDs?
So just to give everyone a little bit of background on why Disability Rights New York opposes the ICE Dominion model of the ballot marking device. For a couple of reasons. The first one is that the device cannot simultaneously serve as a BMD that provides privacy and independence, and also it could easily be confused with a ballot scanner as well. The accessibility issues. And we also think that poll inspectors are actually going to discourage voters from using the ICE device as a BMD. So those are just a couple of reasons why we oppose the BMD. But the general reaction was that voters had no complaints. The BMDs were functioning normally. So for me, it wasn't a lack of access, but it was a lack of privacy to the person using it. That was probably the violation that I encountered the most when I surveyed Westchester County.
And so, Zach, were you able to speak to any of the voters who were trying to use the new ICE Dominion BMDs? And did they have any response to whether or not they felt that the vote was, in fact, private or accessible?
So I did. Of course, I waited until after they casted their ballot, and I got them as they were leaving. I did manage to ask a couple of them, and they said that the BMD was running smoothly. They encountered no problems. It was kind of a get in, mark your ballot, and get out, a smooth process. But they did say that they felt that the voting area was a little crowded and that partially interfered with their experience because anybody could walk in and see over the shoulder of the voter.
Okay. And Donna-Jean, as we talk about poll site accessibility issues, obviously this is not a new thing. We're doing the surveying because it's happening in every election. Why do you think accessibility issues continue to happen at poll sites?
I think accessibility issues continue to happen mainly because of lack of knowledge and proper training. The poll site workers are not always very well equipped to provide the access that's required by the law. I think they really honestly do the best they can with what the county has given and provided them, but they don't always know what they're supposed to be doing. I also think that if New York State had a standard training for all the poll workers, it would eliminate a lot of these violations that we see that are very fixable. New York State allows each county to do with their training as they want. There is no standard throughout the state, and I think if there was a standardization of the training for poll workers, it would help.
And Zach, how do you think that these issues can be resolved, and who can make these changes happen?
So, and I've always maintained this because I have experience as a poll worker. Hire more poll workers with disabilities. I'm not saying that somebody without a disability doesn't see things differently than a person with a disability, but if you hire poll workers with disabilities, they can add a new perspective since they themselves experience the challenges of voting firsthand. They can add to that perspective and say, this was my experience. This is how I believe it should be improved. So one way to do that is to incentivize people with disabilities to work as poll workers during elections.
All right. And Donna-Jean, can you tell us, how is DRNY working to ensure every voter with a disability is able to cast their ballot?
DRNY is serving as many counties as we possibly can. That way we're able to ensure that anybody with a disability is able to vote in New York State. Zach, myself, and the PAVA team, we try to provide as much education as we can, lectures about voters to know their rights and outreach events throughout the entire year, not only during the election season. This is our full-time job and our full-time passion. We partner with as many different organizations as we can to really help the cause and get the word out. And quite honestly, we're not going to stop until every voter is able to cast their vote independently.
All right. Zach, now if someone would like to participate in poll site surveying in the future, what do they need to do? What steps do they need to take?
What DRNY has done is we have created a presentation on how to survey poll sites. So the first thing that I would say is to contact Disability Rights New York, specifically contact the PAVA team, and what they can do is they can direct you to this presentation and they can give you a sense of what your role is as a surveyor and what your general mission is. What are the things you need to look for? What are the things you need to bring? And basically, they could take you through everything that you need to do to be successful.
And Zach, can you just give us some examples of what they will need to look for while they are poll site surveying?
So when surveying, we look for 4 4 different aspects. We look at the parking lot, if parking is provided. We look at the path of travel to the polling place and to the accessible entrance if there is one provided. We look at the path of travel to the voting area. We look at the voting area, and we look at the ballot marking device to make sure that it's functioning. So I would say you take those areas in mind, and this can help guide how you survey different polling places, because not all polling places are created equal, and there are different accessibility issues everywhere you go. But keeping those aspects of it in mind, it should help guide you through your time surveying. Make sure to bring a paper survey. If you can, make sure to bring a tape measure, and always try to take pictures.
That's great information, Zach. We really appreciate it. Now, before we sign off, is there anything else that you'd like to say regarding this subject? Donna-Jean, do you want to start?
I would say that just remember that it's everyone's right to cast their vote and to cast it independently. Whether you're a person with disabilities or not, you have that right. And if you ever have any issues with voting, please contact us. We're here to help.
So, just to reiterate what Donna-Jean said, this is your vote. You are the one who can make the difference. And unfortunately, accessibility, though it should be a priority, is not always going to be the focus when it comes to voting. So as a voter, you have to make sure that your voice is heard and that your vote is private and independent, and that you are able to get to your polling place to cast your ballot. And if you have any issues, you can always contact Disability Rights New York.
Donna-Jean and Zach, thank you so much for your time today. This was great information, and we will be listing the links of any of the sites that you gave us during the podcast. It's been wonderful speaking with you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned has been brought to you by Disability Rights New York, your source for disability rights and advocacy. If you enjoyed our program, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this post. If there is a subject you would like us to discuss, please email podcast@drny.org or comment below. Tune in next Wednesday, where we'll bring you more information on disability rights in the state of New York. The closed caption version of this podcast is available on our YouTube channel. To listen to more Empire State of Rights Closed Captioned, follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.